Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to what is now translated as Fika chat about the future of education. Fikasnack om framtidens utbildning. A little pod where we unscripted talk about things big and small concerning the future of education at KTH and beyond. I am Johan. I work at the IT department as a business analyst, and I'm also hosting this pod. And together with the program for future education and the program manager Joakim Lilliesköld, you are also joining today.
Yes, today I'm joining.
Can you say just a little bit about what's going on with the program right now?
Yes, the program is building up, and last week we had a big session with all the schools on what project they intend to start with, what development projects they intend to start with in the summer and the fall. And it was every schools gathered together and shared their ideas and discussed their ideas, and now we're starting with this as a joint program. So it's really interesting. And a lot of good ideas and projects. Unfortunately, we couldn't finance everything, but it was good.
I guess that's also is like a sound evidence that there are enough proposals not to be able to fund them all.
Yes.
Joining us for this unscripted dive into the unknown is also a teacher from KTH, Luigia. Warmly welcome to the pod.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Johan and Joakim. Very happy to be here.
We will bombard you with questions of various degrees of precision, I'm sure,
okay.
when it comes to me. But we're super happy that you could take time to join us, and it will be me and Joakim, of course, asking questions. But the chat is also open, and those that are participating there are welcome to state questions, reflections, thoughts. Just to start off a little bit, I think actually this one is yours, Joakim.
Yeah. Well, Luigia, please tell us a little about yourself.
Yes. Well, I think what aspect of my life that is important here is my academic path that brought me from a little town in central Italy to Stockholm. I'm originally from Italy. I did all my education in my home country. I received a master in environmental engineering from my alma mater, which is the University of Bologna. And then I took my PhD in hydraulic engineering from Politecnico di Milano. And so I owe my education to Italy. Then after that, I spent some time, the gray zone of the postdoc, still working in Italy. And then I moved to further north. I moved to the Netherlands. I spent 7 years in lovely Delft, where I worked at IHE, the Institute for Water Education, which is a unique place because it addresses education and capacity development and research in all aspects of water. So there were engineers, there were lawyers, there were social scientists, political scientists, everybody working on water. So that I think contributed very much in shaping the kind of researcher and teacher that I've become. And then in 2016, I joined KTH as an associate professor in river engineering. I'm still here, very happy. And and I think I've matured over those past 7 years here at KTH, and it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, that's good. And what do you do at KTH when it comes to your teaching that we're talking about here, and then research as well?
My research field is, I started with flood risk modeling, flood risk management, hydraulic modeling, and lately I've moved more towards the feedback dynamics between society and water decision-making processes and structural intervention in river basins. And when it comes to teaching, I'm responsible at the AB school and the SEED department where I have my base. I'm responsible for courses related to fluid mechanics, hydraulic engineering, and water system modeling. And I am one of the study directors here at the department. So I am both teaching and managing education in the department.
Yeah, speaking about teaching, you said you matured at KTH, and one could say, because you were one of those awarded the Pedagogical Prize last year, 2022, at KTH. So first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
How does it feel to get this reward?
It feels good. Of course, it was an honor. You know, when I received the email and I saw that the email came from the rectorate, say, what? An email from the rectorate. Yeah, what have I done? Are they firing me? Then I was honored and I felt lucky, very lucky. I mean, I'm surrounded by great teachers, colleagues that are very much committed to education. So I really felt, you know, that I was the lucky one to get this prize. And I felt very grateful because I think I have, when I say that I matured here, I think I was offered at KTH the freedom to experiment as a teacher without any constraints. Well, there is some constraint, but without much constraint. I think I've had the opportunity to develop my way of teaching. And it's great to see that it has been appreciated by students and by colleagues. So.
Yeah, and if you look at the motivation, it focuses on several things, but creativity, cross-disciplinary work, and also taking teaching outside of the classroom. We're going to return to these things, but what do you think is the reasoning or the background for you being selected or awarded, rather, to this?
It's difficult to say, but what I can say is that the motivation reflects very well what I'm trying to do in class. You know, I come from, I mean, my background comes from a very strong traditional education. When I was a student like 20 years ago, it was very much traditional engineering education. You know, this student active or student-centered education was not a priority at all. You went to class and then you were given the information and then you had to elaborate the information by yourself. And I think I've learned how that works for some and not for all. And then there is not a solution that fits all, but we can, as a teacher, trying to reach all. And I think the engineers that we are shaping now are very different from when I was a student. You know, and it's not just that they have to face different challenges, but the pace of change is very fast. It's much faster than it was when I was a student. And so I think what is important is that I need to give students something more than a book can give or a very well done YouTube video can give students. And that is, besides my experience, I think offering something that I think is as important as learning Bernoulli equation, which is the capacity to be flexible and adaptive. And that is what I've been trying to give my students, both in terms of methods and contents in my courses. And I think that the motivation to the prize catches that.
Excellent. So if we're moving on a little bit to pedagogy and teaching.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your view on pedagogy? You started off with it a little here, but what motivates you and what drives you it gives you all this commitment to how you want to teach?
I think there are two reasons. Why is an inner reason, and that is I have fun when I go to class. I have fun playing basketball, and I have fun going in class and teach. So it is part of my job, of course, but I really enjoy it. And I enjoy to experiment, to do different activities. I enjoy still deriving equations at the board, but it's a fun activity. And I like when students perceive that it can be fun to learn fluid mechanics, for example. And then there is another factor, which is more external, that I feel sort of a responsibility towards society. And that makes me committed, and not just because, my salary is paid by public money, but it's because I think that it's my responsibility as a teacher to contribute to development of society through my job. I think as an individual citizen, I have very little power to shape society. And one is by casting my vote at the elections, and the other one is to try to make education a tool for opening up minds and not just filling minds with Bernoulli equation. So that is my motivation for going to class.
Yeah. But that also gives a little bit of some teachers we talk to are a little afraid if things don't go out the way you planned, and if you fail with some learning activity. But you don't seem like you're very afraid of that.
No, I think that is no. Actually, I welcome failure in class, because that is part of the learning process. You are not always successful in life. You need to you fall, you stand up, and you start over. And it is part of the learning process. And some of the activities, I tell students, this is the first time I do this, so you need to help me. And a class is not just me talking and you listening. And if I fail, we fail all together. If we are successful all together. It's a teamwork. And I'm not scared of experimenting and eventually failing, as long as, students meet the learning objectives, of course.
Yes. Yeah, but it doesn't fall with one activity. We have a lot of activities in a course. So I fully agree, but it's fun to hear someone that has this passion and really try to experiment and go together with the class and experiment a little. So it's really, really good to hear. What you say, is there? Yeah, you said a little bit that you got you were kind of free here at KTH. Do you think do we have anything that hinders you in this, or if you elaborate a little bit on this freedom?
Yeah. I think not that I was not given freedom in the previous places where I worked, but I think here I felt that I could experiment more. On one side, because I'm grown as a teacher or as a researcher, but also because of probably the society and students are very much open-minded and maybe, exposed. They like to be exposed to experimenting. I've tried to, for example, after the pandemic, some colleagues really enjoyed moving to Zoom teaching. For me, to be honest, it was a nightmare. I really need the interaction. And teaching fluid mechanics in front of 100 black boxes on Zoom and writing equation on a tablet was painful. And then but it was painful, and that in a way was a failure. But it was a driver for making a change. And then I created this activity that literally took students away from the classroom. And I contacted the School of Circus that we have on campus here, next to the KTH gym. Yep. And I asked them if they were interested to do an activity together. And then the head of the bachelor program of circus, Alison Funk, she was very happy to try to do something together. So we combined the flea mechanics students and the circus students. We mixed them in groups to a very smooth activity in the dance studio. And my students at the end of the flea mechanics course were asked to teach some of the flea mechanics concepts to the circus students. And, you know, this is something that I was inspired by the philosopher Seneca, that, I mean, the quote is attributed to him. I mean, we don't know why. Who said that docendo discimus, which means that by teaching we learn. So it means, and I think this is true, I always told students, if you want to test, if you have learned an equation, you should forget the mathematics behind it, but just go and explain it to a 7-year-old kid. If you can do that, then you have understood. If you can only write the equation, you know the equation, but haven't understood it. Mm. And when the students had to explain these equations to the circus students, it was very challenging, but it was great. And then the circus students had themselves the task to create a performance out of that equation. And then another set of my flea mechanics students had to guess from the performance what was the flea mechanics concept. So it was a cascade of, learning objectives and tasks, and it worked very well. And so in this sense, the freedom came not just from the facilities, but also from the willingness of the students to participate in this activity, which was on a volunteer basis. So it was not part of the formal course activities.
Yeah. I mean, wow. We're speaking to think outside the box. And you mentioned several things here. One thing I just wanted to know, try to catch, how do you find time to do this type of sort of educational setup? I mean, of course you're passionate and you obviously think it's fun and it's easier to find time for things that are fun, but still, how do you manage?
Do you want a polite or do you want a a real answer?
The real answer.
The real answer. Yeah. Let's be real.
I don't find this time. I think I'm doing this because I care for quality of the education that I deliver. As I said, I really feel this pressure to responsibility, so I'm doing my best. But I pay this effort with my own time. You know, I need to make time for this. So I worked in the evenings to call and meet the circus colleague to plan this. So I think we are, if I can be frank, I think we are living sort of a paradox where teachers are asked to keep the pace of change, develop new teaching methods, deliver a high quality of education, which is very competitive. Why would students come to KTH instead of going somewhere else? Competition is very high. So, but at the same time, we are not offered more resources to develop as teachers and to improve our courses. So it's really juggling quality, time, resources. So we do spend a lot of resources in discussing education, which is great. I think we need that. But we should also make sure that we allocate time and resources for teachers. Because, you know, on a daily basis, we need to go to class and run courses. Yes. Yeah. So that is, I use my own time.
Yeah, but if we stay on that one, what would you take is the lessons learned from doing this now? You set up this collaboration with the circus school. You did these seminars or with the students. What can you bring to it, and what can you share to others? Will it in the future be able to save some time, or will it be a deeper learning? You're doing this again, yeah. So what's the lessons learned, do you think?
I think that the lesson learned is that it really pays off to have this kind of different activities. And so it pays off because students get more interested. I mean, they told me, you know, we had a lot of discussion, also some feedback session on this, because I really thought, I mean, is this worth, you know, is this worth spending all my time here or just to explain at the board, just equations? But then, you know, students were very happy. They say that it really lifted the level of their understanding to a higher standard, because they felt the responsibility to teach others, and then it was crucial to them to do that. So and then I realized that this kind of activities are very beneficial to students. Now, how to make that on a standard in courses, it's very difficult, because indeed, if I have never really made a budget of how much time I have spent on that. I should have done that. Now, of course, it is an investment. Now it's there. I can use it again. And this year is not going to take me as much time as the previous time. But the lesson learned is that I will keep experimenting, and I will try to make it as efficient as possible. But I mean, the lack of resources is not going to hinder me, but I know that I'm going to pay with my time.
Yeah. But it's an interesting reflection that it is going to cost you time, but the lessons learned here it's in many other advanced concepts. Maybe this is something one could help the students to get a deeper knowledge on electromagnetics or other type of areas that is difficult for students.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was very, very useful. And I could see their commitment, I could see that. And also it was a strange combination, of course, you know, going to this dance studio and meeting this circus students. It was new to everybody. It was new to me, it was new to them. And it was a different context. Even the relationship with me as a teacher was different. You know, I was not standing in front of the board, you know, I was one of them. I was myself shaky because I didn't know where this would go. So we shaped the activity together, and it worked very well. So I was very, very happy. And that's why I'm doing this again. And if I can add, actually, I'm trying also to take, in a way, to make this more efficient by doing some research on how creativity in engineering education can, foster learning. And so in a way, I'm combining now this teaching with some research in this sense.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, you said something earlier that I think is key to why you can dare to do this. It's that you saw yourself and the student as a team. It's easier to take chances if you're all in on it, so to speak. And in this case, you didn't make it mandatory. But I think if you have that view, it's not as scary as a teacher to maybe try new concepts, because you don't have to know that it's going to be super successful or super easy or convenient for anyone. If you have this team spirit with the students, and they know that when going into this. So I think that is a perspective that might help others to also dare to try things that could work, but maybe are not 100% guaranteed to work. And we are engineers after all, so we like problems, we like challenges, and we're sort of driven by that. But you have to be curious, a bit bold, but also you need to have that sort of contract between the students and teachers also to dare to try new things, because it can fail.
Yeah, it can fail, but I think this was part of, in a way, the learning objective of that specific activity, because, you know, now we are, as you say, we are engineers, and usually engineers look for the solution. But, you know, we don't have a solution, you know, there are several solutions, you know, maybe something is a solution for someone, but not for all, you know, there are complex problems that engineers need to fix. And those complex problems have complex answers, and often not a single answer, a multiple answer, or an answer that changes over time, a dynamic answer. And I think that this activity helps students understanding that. Of course, fluid mechanics has a solution. If you're calculating, the velocity in a given point, that is, there is some uncertainty, but it is a value. But this activity helps students understanding that you can reach that point through different pathways. And the fact that they had to teach to students from the circus, with a circus background, made them try different paths to reach a point. And I think that was an added value to what the standard objective of the course would be. So I think that is important, that there is no one solution. There are more solutions, or you can reach one solution in different ways.
Mm.
It's a very important lessons learned or thing to reflect on, and it's one of the reasons for the program of future education is a feedback from our alumni that they're very, very good to solve predefined problems, but maybe not the problems that are predefined or wicked problems, and they wanted more training in that. And you really come up with excellent methods here for your students to address that, at least take some first steps to it.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We are reaching the cursed 30 minutes threshold, but we are not there yet. There will be other teachers listening to this, looking at this YouTube clip. Do you have any suggestions to fellow faculty members at KTH and or outside KTH, of course, on how they can sort of try to engage in this out-of-the-box thinking? Where should they start?
This is difficult. I think what I would suggest is to experiment. I mean, think of different ways that would make the topic fun to students, fun to learn. I've learned that, if people have fun, they learn. There is some, that works for myself still now. So I think it's important to experiment. It's important to cross disciplines. I mean, we do this in research a lot. Now everything is interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, cross-disciplinary, but not yet, I think, in education. We are doing that at the program level to some extent, but within a course, we can do that. We can be cross and interdisciplinary at the course level. So if you bring in other discipline in your class, I think that the main discipline, main subject of the course will be highlighted, and students will really see the need of how the subject contributes to a big overall picture. So I think that is important. And then I think it's important to push students outside of their comfort zone, because that is where learning happens, I think.
Very, very good. We got a question in the chat from Søren Östlund, and it's a very important question, because changing the pedagogic is one thing, but then in that address, we reach some students with that, but how did you change your assessment too because of this approach, or do you think you're going to in time have to change your assessment? Or
okay, in this specific case, the activity was on a voluntary basis, so it was not part of the assessment. The assessment was made for myself in an informal way. So the first group of students teaching to the fluid mechanics, to the circus students, I was there. I was going around and looking at what they were doing. And then I talked to the circus students and I asked them to explain me the fluid mechanics concept, so in an indirect way. And to the second batch of my students, those who had to look at the performance and guess the fluid mechanics concept, they had to write an essay on the activity that they had seen, and they had to interview the circus students on how they had processed the fluid mechanics concept and made it into a performing art performance. So it was in an indirect way. But I compared the grades that students got in the fluid mechanics exam, those who attended and not attended the activity, and you could see the difference.
Yes, very nice. But that means you did a little bit of assessment of the learning that they did, and then
Yes.
but you still had a traditional exam, and then you could compare the learning.
Of course. Yes.
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing and for helping more people to know a little bit on how you have thought outside the box, and maybe sown a little seed for on how others can approach also the same challenge. Time is up, my friends. It's been a pleasure as always to meet you, Joakim, and thank you so much, Luigia, for joining us. The conversation continues. Questions are welcome to us, and I'm sure you can also reach out to Luigia if you want to.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
I'll be happy to reply.
Yeah, we look forward to your paper and the research on this and sharing.
I submitted it.
Yes, great.
Already.
Yes.
Cool. Looking forward to it. And this pod, Fika Chat about the future of education, will be back in 2 weeks. Until then, we wish you all a pleasant continuation of spring that has finally come.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.